ASMR. How are you? Are you relaxed? Relax. Shake off that stress and that mess because it just gets better and better. It gets better and better. Look what I got. I had a bunch of sweet potatoes that I had to do something with, so I made a sweet potato pone and got some leftover Trader Joe's balsamic chicken. And here we are, so let me try it out. You know, I've been making sweet potato dishes for so long that I just kind of throw some sugar in, throw an egg, throw a little butter, and I don't even test it. I just cook it. So let's see how I did. Nice. Yeah. Really nice. I can taste a hint of nutmeg and cinnamon. It's not overpowering. I forgot to get pie crust, so I said, well, my mom called this a pone. I'm sure it's better for you without the pie crust anyways. I've never used canned sweet potatoes. This is so good. And it's so simple. It's about 4 smallish sweet potatoes. A 1/4 cup of sugar because sweet potatoes are already sweet. Maybe I have a cup of milk. 1 egg, half a stick of butter, melted butter, about a teaspoon of vanilla extract, maybe 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, a teaspoon of nutmeg, a teaspoon of cinnamon. I didn't have powdered cloves. If I did, I would have added cloves too. Maybe half a teaspoon of cloves. you just love grilled chicken? We went to see the Led Zeppelin documentary yesterday. It was nice to see most of those guys still alive and healthy looking. I'm gonna leave that last bit of chicken, maybe give it to the cats because it's a little too tough. Wow, this is beautiful. I do want seconds, but I'm going to refrain because I need to build up my appetite again for later. This is a cocoa berry tea from Trader Joe's. Which has a black tea base. Not sure why the building exterminator is coming while it's snowing. I'm a little bit suspicious because I thought he came at the first of the month. Whatever the case, my door will be staying closed. Let me try to save some tea. Well, oh, excuse me. It's time for the next fun part of the video where I get to read something interesting. Wow, I'm almost done with the Great Gatsby. Good, because this book is falling apart. The relentless beating heat was beginning to confuse me, and I had a bad moment there before I realized that so far his suspicions hadn't alighted on Tom. He had discovered that Myrtle had some sort of life apart from him in another world, and the shock had made him physically sick. I stared at him and then at Tom, who had made a parallel discovery less than an hour before. And it occurred to me that there was no difference between men in intelligence or trace or race. So profound is the difference between the sick and the well. Wilson was so sick that he looked guilty, unforgivably guilty, as if he had just got some poor girl with child. "I'll let you have that cat," said Tom. "I'll send it over tomorrow." "Oh, that car, excuse me. "I'll let you have that car," said Tom. "I'll send it over tomorrow afternoon." That locality was always vaguely disquieting, even in the broad glare of afternoon, and now I turned my head as though I had been warned of something behind. Over the ash heaps, the giant eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg kept their vigil, but I perceived after a moment that other eyes were regarding us with peculiar intensity from less than 20 feet away. In one of the windows of the garage, the curtains had been moved aside a little, and Myrtle Wilson was peering down at the car. So engrossed was she that she had no consciousness of being observed, and one emotion after another crept into her face like objects into a slowly developing picture. Her expression was curiously familiar. It was an expression I had often seen on women's faces, but on Myrtle Wilson's face it seemed purposeless and inexplicable until I realized that her eyes, wide with jealous terror, were fixed not on Tom but on Jordan Baker, whom she took to be his wife. There's no confusion like the confusion of a simple mind. And as we drove away, Tom was feeling the hot whips of panic, his wife and his mistress, until an hour ago secure and inviolate, were slipping precipitately from his control. Instinct made him step on the accelerator, with the double purpose of overtaking Daisy and leaving Wilson behind. And we sped along toward Astoria at 50 miles an hour until, among the spidery girders of the elevated, we came in sight of the easygoing blue coupe. "Those big movies around 50th Street are cool," suggested Jordan. "I love New York on summer afternoons, when everyone's away. There's something very sensuous about it, overripe, as if all sorts of funny traits, funny fruits were going to fall into your hands." The word sensuous had the effect of further disquieting Tom, but before he could invent a protest, the coupe came to a stop and Daisy signaled us to draw up alongside. "Where are we going?" she cried. "How about the movies?" "It's so hot," she complained. "You go," We'll ride around and meet you after. With an effort, her wit rose faintly. We'll meet you on some corner. I'll be the man smoking 2 cigarettes. We can't argue about it here, Tom said impatiently as a truck gave out a cursing whistle behind us. You follow me to the south side of Central Park in front of the plaza. Several times he turned his head and looked back for their car, and if the traffic delayed them, he slowed up until they came into sight. I think he was afraid they would dart down a side street and out of his life forever. But they didn't, and we all took the less explicable step of engaging the parlor of a suite in the Plaza Hotel. The prolonged and tumultuous argument that ended by herding us into that room eludes me. Though I have a sharp physical memory that in the course of it, my underwear kept climbing like a damp snake around my legs, and intermittent beads of sweat raced cool across my back. The notion originated with Daisy's suggestion that we hire 5 bathrooms and take cold baths, and then assumed more tangible form as a place to have a mint julep. Each of us said over and over that it was a crazy idea. We all talked at once to a baffled clerk and thought, or pretended to think, that we were being very funny. The room was large and stifling, and though it was already 4 o'clock, opening the windows admitted only a gust of hot shrubbery from the park. Daisy went to the mirror and stood with her back to us, fixing her hair. It's a swell suite, whispered Jordan respectfully, and everyone laughed. Open another window, commanded Daisy, without turning around. There isn't any more. Well, we'd better telephone for an axe. The thing to do is to forget about the heat, said Tom impatiently. You make it 10 times worse by crabbing about it. He unrolled the bottle of whiskey from the towel and put it on the table. Why not let her alone, old sport, remarked Gatsby. You're the one that wanted to come to town. There was a moment of silence. The telephone book slipped from its nail and splashed to the floor, whereupon Jordan whispered, "Excuse me." But this time no one laughed. "I'll pick it up," I offered. "I've got it." Gatsby examined the parted string, muttered, in an interesting way, and tossed the book on a chair. That's a great expression of yours, isn't it? Said Tom sharply. What is? All this old sport business. Where'd you pick that up? Now see here, Tom, said Daisy, turning around from the mirror. If you're going to make personal remarks, I won't stay here a minute. Call up and order some ice for the mint julep. As Tom took up the receiver, the compressed heat exploded into sound, and we were listening to the portentous chords of Mendelssohn's Wedding March from the ballroom below. Imagine marrying anybody in this heat, cried Jordan dismally. Still, I was married in the middle of June, Daisy remembered. Louisville in June. Somebody fainted. Who was it fainted, Tom? Biloxi, he answered shortly. A man named Biloxi. Biloxi. And he made boxes. That's a fact. And he was from Biloxi, Tennessee. They carried him into my house, appended Jordan, because we lived just 2 doors from the church, and he stayed 3 weeks until Daddy told him he had to get out. The day after he left, Daddy died. After a moment, she added, it was as if she might have sounded irreverent. There wasn't any connection. I used to know a Bill Biloxi from Memphis, I remarked. That was his cousin. I knew his whole family history before he left. He gave me an aluminum putter that I use today. The music had died down as the ceremony began, and now a long cheer floated in at the window, followed by intermittent cries of, "Yeah!" and finally by a burst of jazz as the dancing began. "We're getting old," said Daisy. "If we were young, we'd rise and dance." "Remember Biloxi," Jordan warned her. "Where'd you know him, Tom?" "Biloxi?" He concentrated with an effort. "I didn't know him. He was a friend of Daisy's." "He was not," she denied. "I'd never seen him before. He came down in the private car." "Well, he said he knew you. He said he was raised in Louisville. Asa Bird brought him around at the last minute and asked if we had room for him." Jordan smiled. "He was probably bumming his way home. He told me he was president of your class at Yale." Tom and I looked at each other blankly. "Biloxi?" "First place. We didn't have any president." Gatsby's foot beat a short, restless tattoo, and Tom eyed him suddenly. "By the way, Mr. Gatsby, I understand you're an Oxford man." "Not exactly." "Oh, yes, I understand you went to Oxford." "Yes, I went there." A pause. Then Tom's voice, incredulous and insulting. "You must have gone there about the time Biloxi went to New Haven." Another pause. A waiter knocked and came in with crushed mint and ice, but the silence was unbroken by his "thank you" and the soft closing of the door. This tremendous detail was to be cleared up at last. "I told you I went there," said Gatsby. "I heard you, but I'd like to know when." "It was in 1919. I only stayed 5 months, that's why I can't really call myself an Oxford man." Tom glanced around to see if we mirrored his unbelief, but we were all looking at Gatsby. It was an opportunity they gave to some of the officers after the armistice, he continued. "We could go to any of the universities in England or France." I wanted to get up and slap him on the back. I had one of those renewals of complete faith in him that I'd experienced before. Daisy rose, smiling faintly, and went to the table. "Open the whiskey, Tom," she ordered, "and I'll make you a mint julep. Then you won't seem so stupid to yourself. Look at that mint." "Wait a minute," snapped Tom. "I want to ask Mr. Gatsby one more question." "Go on," Gatsby said politely. "What kind of a row are you trying to cause in my house anyhow?" They were out in the open at last, and Gatsby was content. "He isn't causing a row." Daisy looked desperately from one to the other. "You're causing a row. Please have a little self-control." "Self-control," repeated Tom incredulously. "I suppose the latest thing is to sit back and let Mr. Nobody from Nowhere make love to your wife. Well, if that's the idea, you can count me out. Nowadays, people begin by sneering at family life and family institutions, and next they'll throw everything overboard and have intermarriage between black and white." Flushed with his impassioned gibberish, he saw himself standing alone on the last barrier of civilization. "We're all white here," murmured Jordan. "I know I'm not very popular. I don't give big parties. I suppose you've got to make your house into a pigsty in order to have any friends in the modern world." Angry as I was, as we all were, I attempted to laugh whenever he opened his mouth. The transition from libertine to prig was so complete. And I'm gonna stop it here. This is getting a lot more interesting. I have not even realized the time that has passed. Remember that it just gets better and better. It just gets better and better. You know, if you'd like to collaborate with me on videos, or if you want to sponsor me or send me products to review and sample, just let me know. Let's talk. Hey, if you like what I'm doing here, like and subscribe. Donate to the cause. Catch me in the next video, and may you find lasting happiness. Bye.